So we're looking at more books for the retro shelf, and today we have the 2 volumes of terrible old games you've probably never heard of from Stuart Ashen. Ashen's on YouTube. So the first volume was funded through Unbound, dripping with wry humour and featuring the best, worst graphics in the games themselves. This book encapsulates the atrocities produced in the days of tight budgets and low quality controls. These are the most appalling games that ever leaked from the industry's tear ducts and have long since been rightly relegated to dusty shelves of history. Welcome to a world of games you never knew existed. You probably wish you still didn't. So, Ashen's the YouTuber. It's funded through Unbound, the crowdfunding website. So this edition first published in 2015. Super Friends list for backers. Intro from Dan, Justin and John. The contents. Introduction by Stuart. And then we go into the games themselves. Alien Raiders on the VIC-20. Although the game seems to say Alien Invaders. Alien Sidestep, which doesn't look much better. Battle Probe on the Atari ST. And the most disappointing game I've ever bought by Alan Boyston, racing game journalist and YouTuber. Bionic Granny, a real low for the Commodore 64. Car Race on the MSX1. Count Duckula 2, Amstrad CPC is pretty poor on all formats. There's some serious bugs in there as well. Jeff Mentor, talking about asteroids on the VIC-20, which was actually coded by Simon Munnery, the comedian. Crazy Kong, another VIC-20 game. There's some poor Kong clones out there. Dangerous Streets on Amiga CD32. Absolutely dire fighting game. Graffiti Man on ST, just to prove the other 16-bit computer can do it badly too. Meant Ski here, talking about Outrun on the ZX Spectrum. It's an inaccurate preview screenshot there. Talks about the Button Press 3000, an exclusive original terrible game for you. Highlander on Spectrum is also terrible on C64, one of Ocean's very poor licensed games. Hunter on Atari 8-bit, which is the cover image. Paul Rose, Mr. Biffo, talking about Jack and the Beanstalk. Killer Caverns on the Auric 1. Early game from Virgin Software back then. Killjoy on Amiga 1200. Very poor. A License to Kill, Acorn Electron. Nothing to do with the Bond film. The State of the Industry, Steve Pickford talking. And Pickford's had a lot of bad luck in the industry over the years. LA SWAT. Now, I've seen people who say that they like LA SWAT. I personally think it's terrible on all the formats. The Amstrad CPC version is even worse than the Commodore 64 version. Show Jump on Dragon 32. That was Larry Bundy, by the way, on that one. Surprise, surprise. Most disappointing game I've ever bought. Steve Benway, a retro game collector. Squidge. This is another infamous one on the Spectrum. And we found out since the programmer, young man, didn't know how to program very well, used a utility, and there's a bug in it that means it's unplayable. The C64 version is marginally better, still a terrible game. Trench on the BBC Micro, you can tell almost immediately what that's meant to be. And we have Violet Berlin, talking about her most disappointing game, The Acknowledgements. And talking about Unbound, and then we've got the backers again, which take up quite a few pages in this particular book, and the contents. And so that's volume 1. And if one book of bad games wasn't enough, we have two. And I do like the lenticular cover on here to bring you Attack of the Flickering Skeletons. There's just a static image on the back. So again, published through Unbound. Intro from Ashens. Help is here. Founders of Unbound there. And it's published in 2017. The Super Friends. You're back to higher level. The introduction. Auf Wiedersehen Pet on BBC Micro and Acorn Electron, based on the TV series. Which seems a strange game, but there you go. Barravento on Amiga. Rick the Roadie, most disappointing game I've ever bought there. Belial on Amiga. Butterfly on the ZX Spectrum. Castle Top. Atari 8-bit. I'm not sure what that artwork is. Oddworld Adventures on Game Boy, disappointing according to this writer. Hideous Commercial Failure Corner. Now, I support the C64 GS, the console version of the C64, because it meant the new wave of cartridge games, and this myth still about Terminator 2 cartridge. The Terminator 2 cartridge with this menu was sold with a Commodore 64 computer. It was never packaged with the GS. So put that myth to bed, please. Chef on Auric Atmos. Short Circuit. Now, I quite enjoyed Short Circuit. The music is amazing. There's some interesting ideas. Just the difficulty level is so high. Cisco Heat, terrible game on the C64. It's not worth playing elsewhere either. Def Kick, Amstrad CPC. Crisscross, make my video on Mega CD. Just why? Domain of the Undead, Atari 8-bit, which is where the Flickering Skeletons come from. The Crystal Maze on Archimedes. Coin-up conversion Battle Royale. So the US and UK and US versions of 720, UK US version of Afterburner. On those two, the US version comes out slightly ahead. On Bionic Commando, it's the UK version all the way, and the same with Cabal. Mixed on Flying Shot. Icarai Warriors, definitely again UK. Jackal, slightly American. Rampage, slightly American because it doesn't flicker. And Street Fighter on both is pretty poor. I think if you combine the approach of the two of them, so had large overlaid sprites with the controls from the American version, you had a good game, but that's just me. The Flintstones, I'm looking forward to Chinny Vision's video on the Flintstones. Truly terrible game. Galaxions, not Galaxians, Galaxions on the VIC-20. Hellraiser Prelude and Finale, which was a game based around a quest, the idea being you find hidden objects. And there's several of those at the time, but that one had a huge cash reward. Munchman from Kansas. HKM, Human Killing Machine, we'll skip over those pages. Mystery Manor. Mancy's Arcade Hall of Shame. Bad Conversions. Again, Street Fighter gets mentioned there. Strider, Rolling Thunder. Lowest magazine score corner. Robobolt and Alice's Adventures in Videoland. Alice's Adventures in Videoland was a disc game, and when it was sold in the UK, it was sold on tape, and it tried to load the second part from disc. Of course, if you're loading from tape, you don't load from disc, do you? Laura Kate Dale, Barbie Game Girl. The Squidge update page with more of the story. Pro Soccer 2190 on ST. There's Robobolt. It's one of the worst games I've ever played. Scrolling is terrible. Professional Football on Spectrum, Time Zone, Vicky, Crazy Gone. This artwork for Metrocross, I never really understood it, but there we go. Roland on the Run. Roland Games, supposedly named after Roland Perry, the technical director at Amstrad. Most disappointing game I ever bought. Viz. Now, I get the idea. Nostalgia Nerd here talking about the Spectrum version. The C64 version has got some great graphics. Cheetah Tortoise joystick is very hard to control, as were their characteristics. Top Banana on ST. Yeah. WCW NWO Thunder. I never get on with the wrestling games. They all seem so similar. WEC Le Mans. Yeah, it's very disappointing. If you want to play that, just play Burning Rubber on GX4000. It's a much better version of the same game. Acknowledgements and the backers. So that's Volume 2. Attack of the Flickering Skeletons and Terrible Old Games You Never Heard Of. So these are really funny books from Ashens, Stuart Ashen, and all the contributors who did the guest reviews, and still available through the bookstores and worth checking out for a laugh. So thanks for watching. Keep watching my channel for more Retro Shelf book reviews, and like, share and subscribe. Support me on Ko-fi and keep it retro, but maybe not these games.